Have you ever felt blocked? Like, there's some emotion or some judgment of yourself, and you're way ahead of the game. You know that getting in touch with it, and even going to the next level of forgiving it, healing it, is essential, yet it's not quite connecting. This is for you. And this is specifically for you, the client who sent me this great question, which is noticing some incapacities I judge myself to have. I sat down to journal and do a compassionate self-forgiveness process. However, no emotion came. I didn't really get in touch with it. Later in the day, painting, then a whole bunch of emotion came. So, the question is, what's up? How's that working? In some way, that's the question. Here's what I know. Absolutely hugely important if we are judging ourselves. And how do we know if we're judging ourselves? I can't, I'm no good. Any negative emotion, any judgment out toward other people, that's really a judgment of self. So when we recognize that, so important, so valuable, so much benefit in compassionate self-forgiveness. Now, how does that... And so yes, sometimes it happens that, for me personally, I know, and many people I know, there's emotion there, there's upset there. Because anytime there's judgment, it's rooted in emotion. That's self-judgment. So, if I haven't been able to access it, what can happen through expression? Painting, writing, making music, dancing, speaking. These are forms of expression. Now, years ago, I learned two quotations really stuck with me. One, when I was first studying writing, which is, all art begins as pain and is an attempt to heal that pain. I don't completely agree. It's useful for us, though. Second quotation, an expression of genuine emotion is instantaneously transformative. Yes, and not totally. Here's what happens, though. When we go to express, when we do express, what does express mean? It means take from the inside and move it to the outside. So, and what is emotion? Energy in motion. What happens when we haven't expressed, typically, is we've got stagnation. The emotion is inside, but we haven't moved it out. So sometimes it's really hard to get to it. And why? Because it doesn't feel good, right? We don't want to feel that thing. That's why we pushed it in there in the first place, that negative emotion. So, what do we do about this? Well, any expression is useful, almost any expression is useful, at least as a start. By which I mean, the expression can, one, create the movement, create the connection to the material, to the judgment, to the emotion. Cool. That can be really useful. So the short answer to your question is, yeah, absolutely. When I am writing, sometimes that's when I get in touch with emotion. In fact, my first biggest spiritual awakening was prompted a lot by so much writing I was doing, because I was becoming aware of emotions that had been stuck in me for decades. It can work with painting, any of those forms of expression. And what's really useful is to vary it, to try different ones. And we all have our own specific ways of expressing that work better for us than other ways. And when we change it up and do it a different way, we might find a different level of access. Makes sense, yes? Okay, now, it also begs the question for me, to you specifically, when you were in the compassionate self-forgiveness process, did you speak out loud? Because that sometimes changes things for me. And doing it repeatedly. I was working with a client 2 days ago, and I said, okay, are you up for an experiment? Yes, okay. Speak this out. He spoke it out. How did that feel? Do it again. How did it feel that time? More. Do it 3 times. Go slowly. Breathe. Notice how it feels. Use the speaking as a way of contacting the feeling. Okay, are you with me? Is it making sense? So, second part of this that's really important, caveat, is when we do express, and here's where I go back to that earlier one, the quotations I spoke about earlier. One is that I don't think all art is necessarily starting as pain. I think a lot is, for sure. Second part is all expression of genuine emotion instantaneously transformative? No. It's instantaneously change, and I distinguish this way. When we cathart, meaning when we take something that doesn't feel good, something charged, something heavy, dark sometimes, and we get it out, if we yell or we scream, or in a subtler way we complain, what do we feel? Better, right? I got some more space. When I cry, I feel better. I've released something. Good, yeah. And sometimes doing that can actually get us in contact with the feeling, which is what I imagine happened for you when you were painting. It allowed the feeling to rise, like, oh, there it is. So, the flip side, though, is simply expressing, simply catharting, getting it out, complaining, doesn't necessarily actually heal anything. Why? Because if we haven't gone to the root of it, to the mechanism that created it, the system level, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to fill it up with the same stuff. That's why complaint doesn't work. We complain, we feel better, then because we still are in a mode where we look for things to complain about, we find more stuff to complain about. The key to this, and why this is so incredibly powerful and important, is when we learn compassionate self-forgiveness, what we're actually doing is healing the mechanism. It's a bioenergetic transformation where we get to the part that does the judging, the actual judging process, right? Because I can judge myself as fat or weak or lazy, or I can go on and on. And what's much more important is not what I judge myself for, it's that I am judging myself. Are you with me? So, how do you work with this? One, vary your expressions, right? And paint, dance, speak, yell, right? As long as it's not hurting anybody else, have at it. Write. All of those can be really useful. Experiment. Repeat. Go slowly. Breathe. Do it as a way of feeling. And know that it's underneath that really matters. It's the process of the judgment. Okay, now, the great news about this, why I have come to love when I get judgmental, whether it's of myself, I'm no good at this, or I suck, or it's out there, that noise over there of the lawnmower, that's bothering me, that's wrong, or it's, my friend or my daughter, whatever it is, when I'm judging, when I realize, because sooner or later I realize, and I go, oh, that's me. I'm judging myself. I'm what? What's the word we use? It's very popular these days. I'm triggered. Yeah, there's the thing out there that is triggered. I now have taught myself to be trigger happy. Why? Masochist? No. Because when I get triggered, it means I can go in and discover what that trigger is touching inside me, what the outer event is touching inside me, and then I can meet that with love, compassion, innocence, forgiveness, and there's a new level of freedom on the other side of that. All right, I hope this is useful, makes sense. Any comments, questions, let me know. Thank you. I love you. Aloha.